the main slate, which is a 4-gamer as a preview. I'll be live later to talk about that one. I don't think it's going to be a whole bunch to go over, and we'll talk a little basketball too. We are also we're gonna start with the main slate, the afternoon one, the evening slate, and then we are going to transition over to the early slate before it locks. So, oops, I hit the wrong button here, and let me just make sure I have the right date. Yep. So I don't get the wrong date again. That's important, right?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Here we go. April 10th. Yeah. Okay. All right. So sheets. So okay. Last night, I again, if you guys are betting on me on Stake Kings or anything, bet on me in the 250 because I think it's 8 days. It's either 8 out of 9 or 7 out of 8 or something like that. That I've cashed pretty deep there. I finished 13th.
Oh, you cashed that thing again yesterday?
I finished 13th in it. But the problem was the two days I played the 888 and I didn't cash either time. So my secondary lineup ended up being the one that was in there, which is a little frustrating, but still, it's nice to get a little something back. And then I won on FanDuel, so I ended up actually coming about even out for the night. I had a shot in FanDuel with in the 222 because I had the glass now. Atlanta looked like they were going to score a million runs a couple times, didn't quite get there, and I had the Tampa Bay stack, which had some nice pieces late. So had some nice stuff going on, but nothing huge. Sheets, how was the game and how was your night?
The game was great. The DFS wasn't so great. I actually had I had a swipe for the lottery on FanDuel. I mean, it's like hard to say it this way, but if Anthony Rendon hits like a home run in his last at bat, I win the lottery.
Oh my God!
Instead of whatever he did, like walking or striking out or whatever the hell he did. But yeah, so listen, I was like 22 points behind, and there was a guy on first with him at bat. So that's it.
Yeah.
So that's that. So just a couple of announcements. I mean, there's like a lot going on, right? So we have. Okay, so tonight, first of all, there are 2 pretty full baseball slates. There's a 1:15, which is like in an hour. Then there's one that starts at 6:40. Then there's an NBA one that starts at 7. There's a hockey that starts at 8. Okay. And the Masters starts tomorrow morning. So I looked at the time frame of when everything kind of coagulates later, and I'm going to do a 10 p.m. Live sweat because that's like literally the perfect time. If I waited till 11, everything would pretty much be over. So I'm going to do it at 10, and I'm going to go through everything that's going on. And then do a live Masters build probably near the end of it, or whenever I get bored or whatever it is. So a lot of stuff going on. There's the UFC 300 coming up this weekend. Extra big prize pool for that. NASCAR, just freaking everything. Let's get started. So we're gonna do the main slate right now. So let me share my screen. And it's the main slate, at least for me, seems a lot more straightforward
than the early slate.
We'll get to it. We'll go game by game. But I don't know about this weather situation. I mean, I don't know the weather. I don't even look at Roth before I go on here. I just look at the little rain things over the DraftKings thing, and then I ask you. That's my weather analysis. And so we'll get to them. I basically have 2 pitchers that stand out way above the rest. And then I have like 3 or 4 stacks that stand out where it seems like a pretty straightforward slate, but let's just see. First of all, what's the weather? Any big weather concerns we know of for now?
Yeah, Cincinnati is the one that we have to keep an eye on. Roth has it as yellow-orange. The Mets Atlanta is the worst one. He's got that as red-orange.
Okay.
That's a scary one. Cincinnati, he's got his orange red. So two pretty big ones.
Okay.
All right. So with that information, we'll figure. I'll try to do my best later to update all that stuff. But that's what we've got for right now.
Well, I'll just get started then because that makes things a little more difficult because I had Hunter Green as clearly one of the top 2 pitchers on the slate.
Yep.
And if that game is in danger, then we have to address it. It is early, so hopefully they get some news, but it's not like that. It's not like that. We just got to keep following Roth, keep following weather, and then make a choice. But he, along with one other guy, really stand out over the rest of the pitchers. So if this is fishy, I might play him anyway, just in case they play. You know what I mean? Just because he stands out. But if it's like literally like red orange or something like that, then that's just kind of stupid. So, but nonetheless, I do have Green as one of the top 2 pitchers, pretty much tied for first, and then no hitting at all from either team.
Yeah. So wait, you're on. I'm sorry, I'm confused because you don't have one highlighted. You're talking about Milwaukee. Okay, yeah, sorry, Milwaukee. I thought so. I just wanted to make sure that it was the same way on my screen. Yeah, I actually don't necessarily. I think that Green at high ownership, if there's any questions, is completely fadeable. I absolutely love the guy's talent. I think it's a good enough matchup. I also think there's a chance that he gets completely blown up, and the other side of stacking a little bit of the Brewers is definitely interesting to me. So I have a little bit of that's a little bit what I was considering as a way to get different on this slate, potentially. It's a tough pitching slate. So, Wade Miley 7,200. I'm not really going to talk about it much further than that. I don't love stacking in general on full slates against Miley, but I don't mind Cincinnati, assuming this game goes. So I actually think the hitting in this game is a little more appealing to me than anything else. And I'm going to answer a question from JDW in chat. It really depends. There's never a way. Anybody who answers that question as if there's an answer, don't ever listen to them. And the question was, what do you recommend for a min salary during an MLB main slate? There's no such thing as a player that you won't play at a certain price given the situation. By the way, my guy Ben Brown was pretty good last night too, at 4K starting against San Diego. That was another one that was kind of interesting that was surprised more people didn't play.
I don't think that's what he's asking. I think he's asking for minimum salary for the whole lineup, and not just not for a player.
I think the answer is completely the same then.
Yeah, so I'll address that though. I usually don't do minimum salaries at all when I'm using when I'm either using my projections or using SaberSim. I usually just get to what I get anyway, and it's very rare, especially on DraftKings, to get to lineups that leave that much money on the table anyway. And if you do get to them, I'll just leave it. That's my approach. There are some people that don't have it in them to do that.
But like yesterday, you know, what if you had 3,000 left on the table, but you could have played Glass now instead of Kyle Harrison or something? You know what I mean?
No, but my point is that I probably wouldn't have gotten that. You know what I'm saying?
Right. You're saying it wouldn't have given you that. Okay.
It wouldn't have given me that. So so I don't really worry about it too much.
Yeah. I can definitely say that in terms of golf, that in general is the right thing to do too. Like you just almost ignore the salaries, and to some extent, I know you can't because you have to, but like there are so many guys you could play at different things. Anyway, we'll talk about that on our golf show, I guess. All right, San Diego and Chicago. So getaway day, guys. Remember, it's going to be a lot of different starting lineups today, so you're going to get extra value today that you're not expecting yet. Just for what it's worth.
Well, okay, so I'll just start with this one again. I'll start again. Is that, you know, with the Hunter Green I had as number 1A or whatever, and then I have Dylan Cease as the other one. And it's a little scary, you know, because as we've talked about, Chicago's been hitting the ball. Nonetheless, I mean, with the slate as it is, and with his strikeout upside the way it is, he's just kind of standing out on a slate with very, very little pitching. So that's just where I'm getting right now. Not getting any Kyle Hendricks, and I'm currently don't have either of these teams being, you know, in the top realm of the stacks either.
Yeah, I think San Diego is going to show up for some people, and I'm totally good with that. In general, Hendricks, not always my favorite guy to stack against. He's one of those guys who falls into the not great pitcher, but has this, you know, he's got some tricks, as you would say. I like the idea of, like, I like Cease, but it's because we don't have pitching. I think it's a great idea to get some Chicago Cubs stacks in there. This team is really elite offensively, and I really think that, I mean, they're loaded. The top of that lineup is really, really strong. They've got speed all over the place. So even though they don't have, like, it's not necessarily the name brand hitters with Nico Horner at the bottom and things like that, or if you get Madrigal in there, but these guys steal bases. Like, they just constantly put pressure on, and they score runs in a way that I feel like is really good, conducive. They have power and they have speed. Those are really, really good for scoring points. Dylan Cease, we know, has the good and bad in them. If you want direct leverage off of the chalk, this is going to be your answer to me, as far as I'm concerned. So a very low-owned Cubs stack. Look at, I mean, I'm really in baseball mode. I started off talking about stacking against the two top pitchers on the slate, and that's probably something that I'm definitely considering doing. But as of right now, if I had to play like a cash game lineup, I think you start with C's, and if Green is a go, you probably start with Green as well. All right, so let's get over to your Yankees. Your red hot Yankees ready to play my Dodgers in the World Series after 15 games already, or 12.
Yeah,
games.
of course. Well, I mean, they're all going to get past the Royals with their pitching, but aside from that, we'll see what happens.
Yeah, right.
So Marcus Stroman was an interesting pickup for the Yankees over the offseason. Just extremely good real life pitcher. Who is not usually the best fantasy friendly pitcher out there. Although he did have a couple last season, if I remember correctly, couple of ceiling performances out there. And one thing I will say, listen, I'm not just saying this because I was there at the game. Miami really doesn't have any players. I mean, like they do not have a lot of juice on that team, and it's so. I feel. I was talking about a friend I was with. I mean, it's so hard to win with no money now because you used to be able to do it if you were like smarter than everybody else. But now everybody's smart. You know, like now everybody's running the same stupid money ball crap that everybody else is running. So you can't even catch up. And they were showing that somebody from the Marlins like last year, like led the team in RBIs with like 75 or something like that. Like it's it is rough out there. So, listen, I think Stroman is going to win the game. You know, I guess that's the best I can say it. But I don't know. It's like, but listen, if you're going to fade both, if you're going to not want to play Green or Cease for ownership, I mean, Stroman can cruise into 20. You know what I mean in this game if he's pitching well. So that's not a problem. I don't think he has the 30 in him or anything like that. That's the thing. Mm-hmm. Yankees have as one of the top stacks on the board. I have like 4 like actual stacks and one kind of funky one, and the Yankees is one of the normal ones. So Yankees, 7-2 final, something like that, 7-1, and Stroman struggles to get a ceiling, but depends what else you do with your pitching. Like if you tell me Green's off the board, kind of hard to argue against Stroman, honestly.
Yeah, I mean, Stroman is in there just because he's, like you said, lack of options. Now, this is an interesting one because I'm going to guess that the early projections are just way off with the Yankees ownership. But so my initial thought is like, okay, Weathers is a completely viable, cheap option.
Really?
Yeah, absolutely. And I disagree about Miami. I don't think this is a cake lineup.
Okay.
I know that they didn't play, they weren't good last night, but like Arias is the best average hitter in baseball. I don't love Josh Bell, but like Jake Berger's got tons of power. Jazz Chisholm was an all-star, legit all-star. Jesus Sanchez, I like De La Cruz. And then they just sort of have some weird pieces, but I actually think that they're a little bit tougher maybe than some other people do. Okay. I do think Stroman though. I mean, look, I hate the price. He's not a guy you want to be rostering at 9-6 in DFS. He's a really good real life pitcher. Maybe he does just get through this game easily. It is 57 degrees with a little bit of wind blowing in. But if the Yankees stay low owned, give me the Yankees. I know it didn't work. It didn't work with the lefty last night. By the way, it did. The lineup I finished 13th with was a 5-man Yankee stack. So trying to figure that one out. I did have Alex Verdugo at 0.5% ownership, half of 1%.
It was funny when Verdugo hit that home run. I was watching it. I'm like, I wonder if anybody had him in DFS because it's literally he's the last player you would play in like the whole slate pretty much.
No, if you're playing the Yankees, even like nobody played him and the Yankees were pretty popular. But the thing is, no one's going to play him in a lefty, but like they just look at basics and like, oh, this is what lefties do against lefties. Like, no, he's actually got more power against lefties. So I'm going to play him against the lefty. Anyway, so I like the Yankee stack. And I'm just going to have to decide my pitching at the end of this show because I honestly don't know what I like for pitching yet. All right. Next up, we have Baltimore and Boston.
Okay, so here we're into the pivots. Right? We're into the pitchers that you can try, and I think both guys from this game qualify as guys you could try. Either Cole Irvin or Cutter Crawford. Cutter Crawford, I think, is the better pitcher, I guess, or better upside, whatever. But he's got the tougher matchup. I think Baltimore's is better than Boston.
Yeah.
And Irving's, cheaper by 1,100 or whatever. So I think both these guys are viable. And if you're not going to do some Cease Green stuff or whatever, you want to get up to guys like Atlanta or the Yankees or the Astros or whoever, then yeah, saving money helps. So I think both these guys are in play. I currently am not getting to either of these stacks. But listen, if you run enough lineups, you'll get to them, but I don't have them as priorities.
Yeah, I'm sort of, we have a similar feeling about this. Like, I think that, I do think that the matchup may be better for Irvin, but Crawford is a significantly better pitcher. But I do think Baltimore is a significantly better offense.
Yeah.
So like these guys, I think they're, by the end of the day, you're going to see them stand out for just value plays. Like, even though you may not love each stack, but like Pablo Reyes could be at the top of the lineup and he's batting, he's 2,500. Like Romy Gonzalez, who knows where he hits, somewhere in there. Tyler O'Neill's been crushing the ball. There's a little bit of wind blowing in from, it's like 8 miles an hour wind, sort of like crossfield, but in from right. I would prefer the righties in this game. Unfortunately, there aren't that many righties on the Baltimore side. And yeah, just sort of like, I think probably going to be a game that you use for pieces more than you use for actual stacks and stuff.
So Mets, Braves, red, orange, you know, that's rough business. I mean, if somehow this game goes, Atlanta's in play again. But aside from that, I'm just going to presume it doesn't play for now.
Yeah, I think that both. I mean, I think that the Mets stack actually is probably the one I would go with today a little bit more. But you do have some wind blowing in. I don't really love stacking against Quintana. I make this clear all the time. He's just capable of getting by without quite getting as much damage done. He went 20 starts before giving up a home run last year or something like that, or 25. I can't remember. He's given up home runs so far this year. Just one in each game, but yeah, obviously Atlanta is going to look good, and I think people will play them if they can. Actually, I don't know if they will, because it's going to be hard to get them in with the pitching. But the Mets are cheap, partly for good reason, because they've been pretty awful. I think that I could talk myself into some Mets today if this game plays. All right, Houston and KC.
I don't know who's pitching for Houston.
For Houston, we don't know. I don't think it's official yet. There's a it's probably. I think we should just treat it like a bullpen game for this show, I guess.
Okay. So Lugo is just not a guy I play anyway, and probably don't want to play him against Houston. So probably not getting there. Hitting wise, I do like Houston actually in this spot. Whatever. He's they're one of. Listen, but with no Atlanta. I got the Yankees, and we'll get to Texas in a minute. The slate's getting pretty small now that we're looking at this. So I do like Houston here. And depending on what Houston runs out, I mean, should we play some Kansas City? I don't know. I guess we have to see what's going on over there.
So Houston is definitely qualified as we have to start questioning, are they a good baseball team? I think they are, but I don't think they're very good. I think they're slightly above mediocre baseball team, in my opinion, Houston. They can't win a game to save their lives. They've scored 3 or less runs in, I think, 8 out of the 11 games so far this year. Is that right? It's something like that. It's the most overstacked team in baseball, and all the damage is basically done by Yordan Alvarez.
I know. That's pretty much.
It's like, so look, it makes sense. I get it. On top of it, you've got 10-mile-an-hour winds blowing in from left center today. I'll take the pass here on Houston. And honestly, I think even in a bullpen game, you get some pieces that you might like on the other side. I like Perez as just a catching option. I like Pasquantino a little bit, but I'm probably sort of off of all aspects of this game. And don't get me wrong, Houston, it's a small sample size. But I've been saying this for a while that we treat their offense. It used to be the 5 through 9 were like these incredible hitters hitting 300 everywhere and all this stuff, and split like guys righties who are great against lefties who are great against righties. And now it's just sort of a bunch of meh outside of the top 5. And honestly, are we sure Bregman's even good anymore? I just think we need to start asking these questions because we haven't seen a lot of evidence of it. It's more like name brand recognition. So I'm going to be on the side of being less on Houston in general, with the exception of continuing to I'll always have overweight exposure to Yordan Alvarez and Yainer Diaz. I like those two guys quite a bit.
So yesterday, as you might recall, I identified Oakland as this kind of weird off the board, not even off the board, this weird stack that was rated #1 overall. And then we were talking through this. We're like, shouldn't we just play Evaldi's and Evaldi better playing? And Oakland, it was basically a one-man wrecking crew last night.
It was entirely. He hit 3 home runs and had all the RBIs.
Yeah, he had all of it. I mean, so Johnny Bench of Oakland, Shane Langolier has just scored 40+ fantasy points.
9 catchers hit home runs last night.
Oh my God!
There was only like.
Did Herrera get one?
No, I don't think he did.
Okay. So I'll just say that maybe it's like Saberson Newton bias or whatever, but I'm seeing the same thing right now. Like Oakland with some weird, just top value ranking for me, and I'll probably just ignore it again. I'm getting to some Bradford though, as one of the other pivots. You know what I mean? Like, so I will just leave that out there. But Texas for me looks to be one of the top teams. If Braves play obviously, but Yankees, Houston, and Texas. And if we're kind of a little weird about Houston, maybe Texas just steps right up as the top overall alongside of the Yankees. So I do like Texas, and I don't know about this Oakland.
Yeah, I think these could end up being like the highest owned offenses on the slate. I think that it's a reasonable chance that they end up right near the top. I don't know exactly where it'll be, but I mean, Oakland's so cheap, so they're gonna. I mean, I'm telling you, all year long, Sheets, you're gonna see Saberson try to give you Oakland. I'm just gonna tell you.
Oh, that's gonna be them. Okay,
but you know what? And they're gonna give you like nothing 75% of the time. But then when they do, you're in great shape because no.
How about Johnny Bench at 2,600? Look at that.
No, exactly, and he's gonna be. I mean, he'll be the highest owned catcher tonight. Yeah, I mean, it's a very reasonable game to target. Cody Bradford was awesome last time out against Houston when everybody played Houston. 9K seems ridiculous, and I think this is the reason why you have to keep, Stroman like in your mix because there's just hard to find any pitching here. Like, I mean, who are we looking at? Like, my favorite cheap pitcher is going against maybe my favorite stack, which is Ryan Weathers. So I'm a little confused at how I'm supposed to proceed. I would say that, like, if you're getting the multi-entry, I would probably throw a little bit of Ross Stripling in just for leverage on kind of a weird slate. He's 6K. 15 fantasy points might be good enough tonight with the way that the slate is looking, especially if we lose some games. And I think that's an interesting way of getting a little bit different. The crazy one I have, well, I guess it's not that crazy because he looked like get a little ownership, is Quintana against Atlanta. Because you may not need points from your pitchers that much to win tonight if Dylan Cease gets hit and if Hunter Green doesn't play. Because everybody else, it's not like these are high strikeout guys in good spots. Nobody's in a particularly good spot tonight. And I have the Yankees, Texas, and Oakland as the most logical stacks. If the Yankees stay low owned, I will probably stack the Yankees with pieces of Texas or Oakland, probably going to be Oakland because of the value. And I'll play the pitchers I feel most comfortable with. But honestly, this slate is a ways away, and I think I'll have more to say at 6 p.m. because we've got weather concerns. We don't know who's pitching in certain games. Just feels like, we got to figure some things out. So you did what was that, your first run there?
Yeah, my first run here. It's presuming the Mets play, and it presumes that the Reds play. So who knows?
Yeah.
But it is interesting to see that if the Mets did play, that I'd be getting more of the Mets than the Braves. That's all the Mets do is score runs when, you know what I mean? Like, they're just doing it. They're doing it.
Yeah.
Anyway, Texas is going to, stand out, and there's Oakland value, but it really just depends on what games go. So we'll have to wait and see.
Yep, for sure. And I want to remind everybody in our Discord, do not give up on games in the first inning. Just because your team doesn't score or only scores 1 or 2 runs or doesn't score any runs in the first inning does not mean it's the whole thing is over and people get down.
That's the beautiful part about the 10 p.m. Sweat too, is that as long as I have one guy in that Oakland Texas game, I'm not dead. That's it.
That's true.
As long as I have one Shane Langolier's lineup, I mean,
the problem is everybody else will have it too.
Yeah, I guess so.
You just need to find that. See, I went for all of it. I had literally like a one-off from Oakland in every lineup last night, except for the ones that had Evaldi pitching.
Right.
All right. So you ready to do the early one?
Yeah. So what do you think about the early slate? Is a lot more fishy to me. I guess we'll just start with it by just because we only have like half. I'll just start with like what I have, like right off the bat. So like right now, my top pitcher is really scary. He's always scary to me when I play him. Is Kikuchi. That's what I'm getting right now. It's so funny when I was looking at like who I'd want to play before I looked at projection like yesterday. I'm like, oh, maybe I'll just play some Seattle, and then of course I'm getting like Kikuchi is like my top owned pitcher when I run these things. And then the next guys I'm getting are like Bobby Miller 40%, Lance Lynn 40%, Aaron Nola 30%. I mean, I guess those are the top plays. Miller and Nola. That makes some sense with Kikuchi and Lynn. So I guess I'm getting the 4 guys that I would imagine I'd be getting. Do you like those 4 pitchers? Do you like anybody else better? I mean, what do you like pitching wise?
I like Bobby Miller and I like Aaron Nola, and I have no idea how to play them with the stacks that I like. So
okay, fair enough.
The one stack I do like that I could play them with very easily, but then you have to deal with chalk is San Francisco.
Yeah.
And San Francisco, I expect to be probably the highest owned team on this slate,
except for Arizona.
Except for Arizona, excuse me. I'm not recommending that everybody else out there does it. I'm not saying that you should do it. I'm just telling you what I'm going to do. At least one of my lineups with some sort of financial backing behind it is going to have Austin Gomber as pitcher.
Let's go.
What are we supposed to do here? Like, you know what I mean? You're trying to spend down on all these guys. So Tommy Henry, we're going to play double-digit ownership, and we're not going to play Gomber, who's a better pitcher than Henry. They're both bad. But why not take a shot like that? Like, look, I need to save. I want to stack the Dodgers. I'd like to get pieces. I sort of like some of Philadelphia. I like if you want to spend for the Diamondbacks, I don't know how people are planning. I mean, they're a little cheaper because they're probably going to have some different guys playing today because getaway day and all that. But if you want to play Arizona, how are you affording these guys exactly while playing Miller and Nola, who I think are the 2 logical pitchers? The answer is they're going to end up playing Miller, Kikuchi, Nola Lynn, Nola Hicks. I think Hicks is the other one that intrigues me a lot. So Miller and Nola are my top 2. Hicks is probably my next favorite guy along with Kikuchi. They're pretty close. I'm a little worried though about Kikuchi in this matchup. You got the former team.
Sort of, yeah. It's a little bit, sort of.
The king of the free world, Dylan Moore, is on the other side. He's in the lineup today.
Oh, he is, sure is, isn't he?
If you got to have one of that, and then my man Mitch Haniger finally had a home run again last night. So I kind of like Seattle. Seattle, San Francisco, the Dodgers are my 3 main ones. And then you get into the hitting in the in the Tampa Bay Angels game. I like Tampa Bay. I'm a little worried about the ownership. And also it's a bullpen game, so I don't really know who's pitching. That's the thing. I wish I could get an idea of who was going to be the longer relief guy, but I mean, it looks like they've got 3 guys projected to take that role. And Littell's interesting because no one's going to play him. And that's another one who's cheap. I think there's a wide range, or cheaper. There's definitely a range of outcomes, but like he threw 92 pitches his first start, 69 his second. But he looked better. And I just trust Tampa Bay and like pitcher reform kind of stuff, Right. And maybe they found something with him. So Littell would be my next one. It's a little.
You like any of the other side? You like any of the Angels? Now we don't have lineups for any of these last 2 games, by the way.
Yeah, and you probably won't at lock even. No, the Angels are fine. Like, I mean, Rendon is finally hitting the ball again, which he's been probably the worst hitter in baseball for the last year and a half. And people kept playing him, and I just didn't understand it. Like now it's starting to get like, okay, he's starting to look like, and then when he gets on base, he actually stole a base the other day. Like, at least he's trying. Sure, like they're cheap, and you get Trout in there, so no, like I never mind. Sure, like I think that they're fine. I just don't think it's like a priority for me.
Meanwhile, piggyback off of what you recommended yesterday, do you remember it wasn't too long ago where no matter who they played, no matter what the price, no matter whatever it is, like Trout would be like 20% owned, like regardless.
And he's never played anymore.
Dude, nobody played him yesterday.
Mm-hmm.
Literally nobody
or the
played.
day before, or the day before. It's so
All
true.
the guy does is hit home runs every
I know.
at bat. It's freaking crazy.
Yeah, even if you don't like the Angels, don't you just play some Mike Trout in general. Get to that a little bit because everybody's going to play the Dodger guys, or the Braves guys that are on the slate, or Arizona today and against Colorado. I don't think people are going to do. I think that the Angels might get a little ownership, but even that, like Trout's projected to be the 6th highest owned Angel, and that's because they're cheap. But still, I think you're going to see a lot of Arizona against Gomber. I would suggest a good way. So I guess Dodgers, Seattle, and Colorado, even though I do have some interest in Kikuchi still. I think Colorado at low ownership today, look, you finally have like some it's more of a Colorado day, all of these games, because you get the day games like San Francisco, the Giants. I always talk about how that game plays so much better during the day. Colorado, it's still 55 degrees with some wind blowing in. Maybe I talked myself into it a little too much, but I don't know. I'm sort of talking out of both sides of my mouth with the Colorado game because I'm talking myself into Gomber and maybe Henry. But I also, think that Colorado's an interesting pivot off of the Arizona chalk.
I have a question. Like we've been talking about playing like Austin Gomber at home, like for like years now. Has it ever actually worked? I mean,
absolutely. It's working every day. What is working? Like Cheats, I would be so happy with 5,300. He put up last game against Tampa Bay. He put up 15 fantasy points. I would take that.
Yeah, I would say 12. Yeah.
I would probably take 12.
Yeah.
Yeah. Fine with me. I mean, unless the only way you get crushed, in my opinion, I guess you could get that game from Kikuchi. But for the most part, I guess Jordan Hicks, Nola, and Bobby Miller all scare me of having ceiling type performances a la Tyler Glasnow last night. They all have that massive upside where you need to have them. But I don't know, man. If none of those guys scores above 25, give me my 15 and let me play the Dodgers.
Yeah.
I do think the Seattle thing though is it's a better stack than it's getting credit for. Kikuchi can get a little off at times, and
you get the righties.
You get the righties. I much prefer Seattle against the lefties. I've been picking the righties against Seattle, the right-handed pitchers against Seattle every day, and it's been working. But now we get a lefty. I think we got a little bit of a different story. I'm going to be into this situation personally for Seattle a little bit.
You know what I'm going to play tonight? I haven't played in like a while. Like the NBA. I actually have heard of some of these guys that are playing.
No, we'll see. We'll see if you've heard of them by tonight.
Yeah, I think by lock, Sandro Mamushkavalovi would be the most famous player. That you know what I mean?
Do you know how many players were officially announced out yesterday?
Oh no,
37.
Oh my god.
So this is why I said the morning thing. Like, what are you doing? What are we doing? Like, you can't try to we can't speculate. We have no idea what's going to happen.
So you can't be sure that that Devontae Graham is a lock at 4,100.
Right. Like there's no such thing because you have 9 guys projected at 8x and 7 guys projected at 7x and 25 guys projected at 6x. It's just madness.
Now it's not one of those things where do we know because I looked at the results yesterday in the NBA and the people who won the tournaments played like guys I've heard of. Like they were actually like really good players that scored
the stars are all almost every one of these like Luka's in a playoff battle for positioning. So is Giannis, although he got hurt. But everybody's in position. So the guys who are going to be scoring, they're like Jalen Brunson. Instead of him averaging out to 45 or 50 fantasy points yesterday, his median should have been 60 because they need to win those games. So it's like a playoff game for them.
I mean, even so, Butler scored 1 million fantasy points yesterday.
Yeah, but they also had guys out. They had 2 guys out, and they needed to win.
And who else? Somebody how about 70s yesterday. I think DeJounte Murray. I forget who it was, but
Luka had 75.
Yeah. Well, that's like busting now for him. I mean,
I know it's ridiculous. I see his projection every day at 65, and I'm just if the game matters, it just has to be 75. In the postseason, what are they going to make it? It should be
that was the other one. JDW Edwards at 10% ownership scored
Oh yeah, Edwards absolutely smashed in a game that probably shouldn't have stayed as close as it did, but he completely.
Yeah, but you know what? As we get down, we're getting into playoff basketball. Listen, I know it's fun playing, some of these guys we never heard of, but as you get into the playoffs and you're going to get all these freaking studs playing 40 minutes, those are the guys that are going to score. And as you've seen, these guys, I think this year more than any year. I mean, they're just putting up just big numbers,
Yeah. little bit less so since they changed the defenses, but it's true. It's very, very true that they're putting up, and you're going to see just a hyper magnified version of it in the playoffs. Like,
and it's too bad we only get a couple more games to see Wemby until next year.
Yeah, but I'm telling you, man, that here's one for you. If you could take, like, people said, oh, I wouldn't trade Jokic for him. I wouldn't trade Luka. I wouldn't trade Giannis. You could give me LeBron in his prime. I would trade LeBron for Wemby. I don't see any way he doesn't end up without injury. Of course, injuries are a significant possibility, but I don't think there's any way he doesn't end up a top 10 player of all time because he's going to win Defensive Player of the Year every single year. And that alone means he's probably going to win 4 or 5 MVPs. Like, I just don't know how this guy is. Who's supposed to be better than this guy in a couple of years?
Yeah, you have to. And again, this could be like boomer stuff, but I just want to, he's got to develop into that tough dude, that like leads the team, that's vocal, that is. You can't, if you're going to be top 5, top 10, you can't just be like a good, the best player. You know what I mean? Like it's that's my opinion. Whatever. But
I agree, but LeBron basically the talking and the things he did like that actually I don't think helped him any. I actually think that he's like, I don't know. I think the other top guys, yes.
Well,
but
LeBron.
I mean, Kareem was not a talkative leading the.
Not in the slightest, and he's he always doesn't make the top 5. Like,
no, he's number 2 of all time. He's number 2 or 3 at the worst.
You say that because whatever, but like you poll the audience, like you'll never get that.
Pull the audience, sure, but like pull the top guys who know basketball. They're gonna have. I think everybody has in the top 3. It's too many decades, man. He was the best player in the 60s, 70s, 80s, like, and he won the most MVPs ever, and he won the he had 6 titles. Anyway, all right. Well, I'm gonna finish building these lineups. Then we're gonna jump into a golf show in like 20 minutes.
Yeah, whatever you want.
All right, cool. I'm excited about the Masters show. I'm just going to finish up my early builds, and I'll let you guys know what I came up with.
Okay, so 1 o'clock?
Yep. Good luck, everybody.
All right.